the dollar collapse. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, oh, here we go again with the doomsday predictions, but hear me out. The signs are all around us, and it's not a question of if, but when. The truth is, a dollar collapse could happen at any time. Yes, you heard that right. It could even happen this year. Now, I'm not saying it will, but the possibility is very real, and we need to be prepared. Think about it, our national debt is skyrocketing, inflation is persistently high, and global confidence in the dollar as the world's reserve currency is waning. These are all ingredients for a perfect storm that could lead to a rapid devaluation of the dollar. Now, you might be wondering, okay, if the dollar's in trouble, why silver? Why not gold or cryptocurrencies? Great question. To answer this, we need to understand the difference between investment demand and monetary demand for silver. Investment demand is what we're seeing right now. It's people like you and me stacking silver in anticipation of a monetary system breakdown. We're buying silver as a hedge, as protection against what we see coming. But here's where it gets really interesting: monetary demand. This is when silver isn't just an investment anymore, it's actually used as money during a crisis. And this, my friends, is where silver really shines, pun intended. Let's talk about the gold-silver ratio for a moment. Right now it's sitting at around 81, meaning it takes about 80 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. But here's the kicker: historically, in times of monetary panic, this ratio falls dramatically, often to around 15:1. Why? Because when things get really bad, people who can't afford gold turn to silver. It becomes the poor man's gold, if you will. And with its industrial uses and historical role as money, silver becomes incredibly valuable. Now, let's address a common misconception about inflation. We often hear that rising prices are due to supply chain issues or goods shortages, but that's not the whole story. In reality, inflation is primarily a money problem. Think about it: in hyperinflationary environments, we see the prices of basic necessities, food, energy, housing rising much faster than luxury items. If it were purely a goods problem, wouldn't all prices rise equally? The truth is, when too much money is chasing too few goods, prices rise, and right now we're seeing the early stages of this process playing out before our eyes. Speaking of early stages, let's look at some of the canaries in the coal mine, the early indicators of a developing financial crisis. Remember the UK pension plan fiasco last year? That was just the beginning. We're seeing cracks in the system all over the place. Crypto exchanges collapsing, regional banks failing, and even some whispers of trouble in bigger financial institutions. These are all signs that the current financial system is under immense strain. And when systems are under strain, they tend to break in unexpected and often catastrophic ways. Now, you might be thinking, but wait, aren't central banks raising interest rates to fight inflation? You're right, they are for now. But here's the thing: they can't keep it up forever. Eventually, probably sooner rather than later, central banks will be forced to reverse course. They'll have to start printing money again to prop up failing institutions and prevent a total economic meltdown. And when that happens, hold on to your hats, because demand for precious metals is going to surge. This brings us to one of the most exciting aspects of the silver market: the potential for a physical silver squeeze. Once central banks start the printing presses again, we're likely to see a massive drain of physical silver from centralized stockpiles. And here's where it gets really interesting: the futures markets, which have long been used to suppress silver prices, may become irrelevant. Instead, we could see the emergence of physical silver exchanges where real, tangible silver changes hands at prices that reflect true supply and demand. Now, some of you old-timers might be thinking, but what about the 1980s? Didn't they change the rules then to stop the silver bull market? You're absolutely right. In the 80s, when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market, the powers that be changed the rules to stop them. But here's the crucial difference: today's environment is fundamentally different. Central banks have limited power to raise interest rates without causing a debt crisis. They can't control the situation like they could back then. We're in uncharted territory, folks. Let's take a step back and consider why gold and silver are so important in the first place. Throughout history, these precious metals have been the only true forms of money. Not paper currencies, not digital tokens, and certainly not some theoretical basket of commodities. There's a reason why gold and silver have stood the test of time. They're scarce, durable, divisible, and universally recognized as valuable. In times of crisis, people always return to what they trust. And for thousands of years, that's been gold and silver. Now, I know some of you are probably wondering about the BRICS countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. We've been hearing a lot about their plans to challenge dollar dominance, maybe even create a new global currency. But here's my take: don't hold your breath. While these countries might talk a big game about fiscal responsibility, their track records tell a different story. They're not going to lead a new monetary paradigm, they're going to follow the market. When the dollar collapses, these countries will do what's in their best interest. And historically, that's meant turning to gold and silver as a store of value. So where does all this leave us? Look, I'm not saying the sky is falling tomorrow, but I am saying that the writing is on the wall, and it's better to be prepared a year too early than a day too late. Investing in physical silver isn't just about making a profit, although that's certainly a possibility. It's about protecting your wealth, your purchasing power, and your financial future in an increasingly uncertain world. Remember, throughout history, there have been many fiat currencies, and they've all eventually failed. But gold and silver, they've been valuable for thousands of years, and they'll likely be valuable for thousands more. So, my advice, do your own research, consider your personal financial situation, and think hard about how you want to position yourself for the future. Because whether the dollar collapse happens this year, next year, or 5 years from now, it's coming. And when it does, those who are prepared will weather the storm much better than those who aren't.